Okay, perfect. Oh, there I am. Should have lost weight sooner. Okay, so I don't care about that. Can you see me from here if I stand here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just it's coming from this camera.
Oh, gotcha. So do you want this over? Oh, they can't even read this. They can't see this. Oh, I guess now they can. Okay. Is that good? Okay.
And then if you guys, I won't be here to run mics, so if you guys don't mind just sitting a little closer, because for us to hear the audio recording, you guys need to speak into the mics. So if you have a comment or question, maybe you can just repeat it as well.
Okay.
Just so that before you get to
Okay, so we're right. We're good to go.
Yes. You're good. You can start here.
Okay. So first of all, oh my gosh, I don't usually do it like this. Anyways, my name's Carol Holthaus, and I am a licensed agent in 3 states, in Utah, Kansas, and California. My husband and I have currently in our portfolio over 100 homes. We've sold several this year just because equity's been good. I don't know, my taxes are going to be great, but equity was good. So we sold some of those to our actual tenants. So they did not have competition to purchase the home. We gave them a good price. And that's kind of why we do this business. We do what we want with what we own. And so that's been really good. Families that couldn't find a house, help them get one. But my husband and I have been investing for over 26 years. I have 4 kids. So just to kind of tell you, I don't come down here very often. I live in Nephi. I travel back and forth. I have an active team in Kansas where I have closed, I think 30 this year, maybe somewhere in that area. Okay, but woo, dollars don't match, just so you know. That's probably equal to 2 here. No, I don't know that. But anyways, so I have 4 children, 16 to 26. And then we manage all of our own properties, my husband and I, and he is also the CEO of a family heating, cooling, electrical business in Kansas. So he travels back and forth. I travel back and forth. And so here we are. A lot of people always wonder, how do you get all your houses? Well, let me just tell you, when we started, Fannie and Freddie said you could each have 10 per social security number. So I got 10, my husband got 10, and then we went, now what? Now I think Fannie only says you can have 5. Fannie and Freddie said 5, right? So that limits what you can buy. So you're looking for creative ways to finance. Subject to is a really, it's easy to do, but hard to convince people to do it. So you do have to kind of be able to explain it, make sure that your rear is covered when it happens. A lot of these are universities for us. So you guys get that kind of experience and know, so you don't make that same mistake, right? Does anybody have any specific questions they want? Because I kind of just give you the answers you want, or that questions if you have any. Subject twos are taking over somebody's payments subject to the existing mortgage. They are legal. They are on a settlement statement. You can take it over subject to. The biggest thing is you want to make sure that you're not intermingling language. It is not an assumption, right? People go, I assumed their loan. No, that's illegal, right? It's illegal to take over somebody's payment without qualifying for it on an assumption. That's an assumption loan. Subject to means that those people or that individual still holds the mortgage to that property. They hold the mortgage, they no longer hold the deed, they no longer hold access to the mortgage, and they waive and give over a power of attorney so that I can do things with that property. Okay, so I make sure that I maintain control, but they hold the credit, they hold the mortgage, and what you do affects them. So meaning, let's say, tell me your name. Okay, so Jared is in a bad spot. I come in and I say, hey, Jared, I can take over your house subject to, here's the problem. I already got 100 houses. I cannot qualify for any more, right? Just can't make the qualification. Not that I'm not qualified, but I can't get any money. Fannie and Freddie said no. So the only thing I could do is I could take over your payments so you can go off and do whatever it is you want to do. And I'll make sure that your house gets paid and your credit stays good. And he goes, well, I can't move. I need some money. Well, how much equity do you have? Because here's the deal, I'm not paying for your equity position. I'm getting rid of your problem. So he says, well, I need $10,000 to move. And I might take that subject too. And we kind of talk about it a little bit more. And he decides he's going to do it. I decided it's a good deal, even giving him $10,000. I give it. That would be an exception. Generally, you're bringing a loan current. That's a lot of times when subject twos are very attractive, is when they no longer have a job. They're divorced. Somebody dies that was making the payment. They can't make the payment anymore. So you come in and you can take over that mortgage subject to, bring it current, and then continue to build their credit and while you own the house, right? But you want to make sure that when you own the house, that you have all the documentation. So I'm gonna tell you again, you need a power of attorney, a limited power of attorney. Right? Does anybody know why you need that? Okay.
To be able to talk to the mortgage company.
No, that would be, I need that also. So no,
Authorization.
yeah, I need the authorization form from the mortgage company, filled out by the seller, right? Or by the person wanting to get rid of their house. The reason I need a limited power of attorney is so that I can do things like change insurance if the insurance goes through the roof. I can sell the property without contacting the seller. If I don't have that, I need to call you back when I'm ready to sell. And I say, hey, I need to sell your house. Can you sign all this paperwork? I need to sell it. He goes, oh, wait a second. Wait a minute. The market's crazy. I heard everybody's getting 50,000 over asking price. Well, that's way more than I sold it to you for, right? Just creates a problem. I don't want a problem. I'd like to take care of that ahead of time. Okay. It also allows me to change an address or do things like that. Now, once we take over the mortgage, right, I want to make sure that I put in a change of address with the mortgage company. Generally change it to a PO box. The reason I do that to a PO box, and you lenders, get a little fickle if I change it to a different address and I notify you I moved. PO box goes to, because now my company manages that property. Okay. First of all, if the mortgage company calls you, do not lie. Okay. That's mortgage fraud. But a lot of times if the asset starts performing, they don't generally, it's not a normal rule of thumb that they would call it due. Now they can, and then you better be able to pay for it or figure something else out if they call the note due. Okay. Because you've taken it over. Technically, it's a small gray area violation, but it's not fraud. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're really careful about the words that you say and how you kind of explain what you're doing to people. It also does not come off your credit. So if you move and then you go to buy a house, guess what you're not doing if you don't make a whole lot of money? Buying another house. So guess what you do? You call me and you say, Carol, I can't buy a house. Now remember when we sat at the kitchen table, 2 years, a minimum of 2 years that I have to be making those payments on your behalf for you to qualify for a mortgage. Then they consider that kind of like a rental agreement. And you can show that by, you call me up and I send you canceled checks for 2 years, or I send them to your loan officer. 2 years minimum. Does that mean in 2 years I'm going to take care of it? No, it doesn't. Might be there for 20 years if that's what's left on your mortgage, right? So I make sure that you explain those things to the person that you're doing it with. Another one of the things that you're going to want to do is online banking is huge. Have you ever tried to make a payment, don't know the password, and the email is not yours? Well, you'd like it to be. So you want to make sure you get their online banking information, right? So what I recommend is that they go in and change it to a generic password. And then they give me that password. I go in and update the address, update the email, change the password, And then they could no longer get into the bank account. Now, if they go through the whole rigmarole, then they probably could. But most of the time, people are kind of leaving their problem and it's not there anymore, right? As long as I'm taking care of their problem, people are okay. And it was really simple, easy. I close it at a title company. I don't know about, I haven't tried one here. So some title companies are kind of fickle. It goes on the settlement statement as subject to. It's all approximates. There's no payoff. It's not really a real payoff balance. It's just whatever it was online at the time that you bought it. Now, maybe 5,000 more, could be 5,000 less. I don't have any idea, right? The escrow impound also gets assigned to me because the account doesn't change. So anything that's in there now becomes my property. Does that make sense? So if there's taxes and insurance being impounded by the payment, when you leave, you don't get that because you would owe for all your taxes anyways. So that's all in there, becomes my property or the property of my LLC. I don't buy anything personally, but that's another class. Okay. So, but you want to make sure you have these things. Okay. Now I will tell you, it's not been never known for that person to come back and get things together and get remarried or not, and decide they want to come back to where they left. And guess what they want? Their house. It's happened 2 times to us since we've done them, where the people came back and the gal says, well, I can't even qualify for a house, even with the fact that you've been paying my credit, because I didn't pay anything else. So I want my house back because I need somewhere to live and I can't rent because my credit's, did I say suck on this video? Sorry. So my credit sucks, so I want my house back because that's the only thing, only where I can live. And I go, here's my contract. I've been paying on your house. And so we have actually just given their house back with some conditions. So they got to pay me down my equity and any major repairs I've made to the property. I have to be able to get my tenant out, which means sometimes I got to write a check to help them move to a new place. They weren't planning on moving, but 2 times we've done, the 2 times it's happened, we've given them their house back 2 times. And the reason we've done that is your reputation is everything. When people start doing things and not actually relinquishing credit, real money, loans, that kind of stuff in their name, you want to make sure that you're trustworthy and you have references to call. So we just give them their house back with a little bit of concession, and they can have it back, and they think we're wonderful, and they're happy to tell somebody else about how great it was. So 2 times. So that could happen. So you want to make sure that when you are aware of things that could happen based on what you're doing. Okay. Because it's kind of like, here's a house, but I'm going to keep the mortgage in my name and hope that you pay everything. Hope that you make everything on time. It's a big trust between the parties. So does that make sense? Yes.
Just a question. So when you're getting all this paperwork and everything, you are taking it to the title company then and closing on it? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I do a closing
Okay.
where they sign the deed over to me and I take the deed. And then I have a contract that says I'm taking over subject to. The balance is approximate and all parties know it's approximate. The impound account becomes the property of the buyer, which would be me or my company. So yes.
Okay, so it's not a quick claim deed you're doing, you're actually doing a.
I'm actually doing a deed. Yes, I don't want a quick claim deed. I want a
Okay.
deed. Okay. And when you go back to them, it just makes it cleaner. People feel like it must be legit. Not that I'm doing anything illegal, but it must be legit if we can close it at a title company. Gives them that little bit of assurance that, oh, hey, somebody's done this before. Not just me, trusting this person who knocked on my door, said, I can fix your problem. But I can't fix it with I just have to have you sign this over and I'll make this payment and whatever. So you want to make sure that your title company can close here. I don't know why they can't. It's on a settlement statement. But some are kind of funny because we have to notify the bank. Not really. Where in the mortgage does it say you have to notify the bank if you do a subject to closing? Josh, your mortgage, does it say that in the mortgage?
Sorry, say that question one more time.
Does it say if I do a subject to closing at a title company that the title company is obligated to notify the mortgage company that there was a sale? It says that in the mortgage? Yeah, no, it doesn't.
They're not making
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. But where I'm telling you is if they call you and they say, did you sell your house? And you say, no, guess what you just committed? Bank fraud. I don't ever want you to do that. You say, yes, I was unable to sell my house. And so I sold it subject to my mortgage. And here's the contract I can send you to call. And then you call us all panicked. And then we just help you walk through it, what you need to do to supply them. As long as it's performing, generally they don't, but don't lie. Okay. And I certainly counsel you and make sure that they are adamant, because we did have somebody call the bank. Why are you changing the address and everything? Goes, well, I'm moving. I can't sell my house, so these people are going to buy it. Okay, what? And so then we just supply it. But don't lie. That's not worth jail time. No amount of money for me is worth jail. And it's not just regular jail, it's federal jail. So you want to make sure that that you're making sure that both parties are covered. Okay. Another thing was subject to, let's see, really the best time to do those is in a bad market, right? There's a lot of stuff on the market. People can't sell their houses. If we had like a 2008 in there, 2007, 2008, we have that crash in the market. Everybody wants to get rid of their house. Not a lot of lending was tightened up. It was hard to get a loan for people. They weren't giving it to everybody because they breathed. So that's a good market for that. Divorces are a good market. And especially right now, when things change, most people bought over asking. And here's what I'm going to tell you, the subject to, if you're an investor and you're doing it for monthly cash flow, the balance does not matter. Okay, let me repeat that. The balance of the mortgage does not matter as long as it cash flows. I don't care if it's 400,000, if I'm making the $500 a month that I want to make on my mortgage or on my cash flow amount. Really irrelevant to me that it's 400,000. I don't plan to sell it. I plan on somebody else making the payment to pay it off anyways.
As long as it rents for.
Correct. As long as my cash flow is there, absolutely. Yes, then it doesn't matter to me. Could be $750,000. If my cash flow is there, it doesn't matter to me. First of all, it's not my money. Second of all, it cash flows to what I need for my books. Now everybody's different, right? Somebody might go, I'm okay with just, 200, or I might be okay with, well, I'm just telling you, if you're not cash flowing at least $300, probably not a good investment. And in a bad market, you better be cash flowing a whole lot more, because the housing bad market does not mean a rental bad market, right? So rents, and you want to buy somewhere that don't lose track of the market, don't lose track of the rents, because you'll inevitably be giving money away. And as an investor, I don't like doing that. Not past my control. Like, I like to control my money when I give it away to whomever I choose, but I don't want to not have it because I didn't do my work for the market. Yes.
Sorry, maybe I missed it. How long is the loan just in the original seller's name?
Correct.
The whole time?
Yes.
Is there a way to refi out of that?
Sure there is.
Okay. Without it being fraudulent?
Yeah, if you want to refinance it after a certain period of time, let's say rates drop, maybe this is 6 and you're going to drop it and it's going to increase your cash flow enough to offset the charges of getting a new loan, you can pay it off. You just fill out the power of attorney, refinance the property, get a new loan.
And then would you refinance in the same name? Or
No, you can't refinance it for him. You can refinance it for you. If you called him after you bought it and said, hey, the rates are really great, I'd like you to refinance the house that I bought subject to. I don't know that conversation goes very well, but I don't know. I've never done that. It's a good question. I've never done it.
Yeah.
So I'm not making fun of you, just saying, I don't know that would be a conversation. Like, if you called me up, hey, I want you to refinance so I make more money off the house that you gave me and you've had it on your credit for all this time. So no, if you're refinancing, it's you.
Yeah.
The only way I'd refinance is if the market took a great deal and I wanted to pull maybe some equity out, or the rates went so good that my cash flow increased substantially. Because remember, when you refinance, you got a lot of fees on the property that get rolled into the property that you'll be paying for 30 years or 15 or however long your note is. So you need to make sure that when you're running your money, right? So let's say it costs $5,000 to close a refinance, right? That's probably pretty reasonable. 5,000 times, what's the rate right now? 5.4% for 30 years is a lot more than $5,000. So was it worth refinancing it if it costs me that much more? Maybe if I got an extra $200 or $300 a month, might be. Just want to know what's in your own portfolio and what you need or what your money deal is. I've got a couple break-even houses. The reason they're break-even is so they'll pay the equity down as long as that, but I need a tax offset. I don't know about anybody else, but you know, writing $100,000 plus checks for taxes, it kind of hurts at the end of the year, right? Yes.
So walk me through this from a simple, different position. What's in it for a distressed seller who's you've contacted them?
Okay.
What's in it? What's their scenario? And what's in it for them to want to do something like this,
So they have no other option.
other than walking away from the place?
Correct.
And everything?
Mhm.
So notices of default, notices.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if they're over leveraged on the property, they can't sell it for as much as they owe. So that would be that's going to be a short sale.
So then the advantage is, instead of me losing it, we're gonna do this deal. You're gonna keep my credit alive.
Correct.
You're gonna keep things going.
I'm gonna keep a portion of your credit alive, right? I never say I'm keeping that, only because let's say I'm paying your house and it looks really stellar and you don't pay your car and you're late on your credit cards and you're still screwing your credit.
Is the understanding of the seller to you is that they never will get their house back? This is not a good
Correct. They
quality-
sold it to
They
me.
sold it to you,
Mhm.
but we've done it in a way that it enables you to sell it when a traditional way you couldn't sell because you're upside down.
Say that to me again.
Well, doing it this way, they are able to sell you a house that in a conventional sense, because they're upside down, they couldn't sell it.
Right.
They have
That's why
to
it
bring
works.
it home.
That's why
Okay,
it works with that.
so then the last piece, I see that piece there. From your perspective, the buyer of these properties, what's the end game? What's the goal? Is it to acquire just more investment properties?
Yes.
And looking at what this person owes, what their mortgage is, and then comparing that to what my rental rate would be. So because am I looking to turn around and just, because this is a good house and there's equity in it, just give me that last
Okay.
picture.
So the reason I would buy a house is to increase my cash flow or my equity position. It depends what you're buying it for. If it's in a bad market, I'm not increasing equity. I'm increasing cash flow only. Now, if I've had it for 10 years and the market the last 2 years have been crazy, okay, now I'm in a great equity position. Does that always happen? Probably not. I mean, I've been a realtor since the end of 2009, been investing for 25 years. This is the craziest market I've ever seen, right? So in 25 years, I'm not banking on equity.
And you're
Just
gonna
cash
increase
flow.
cash flow.
So I'm increasing my cash flow, correct?
Because you already know what their loan is.
Correct. I know what the
and you know
rental
what you
market
need to
is.
put into the place or whatever to bring
Mhm.
it up to be a rental property. When I take in all my costs, I need to be in the positive. To your point, I really don't care what you owe on it,
Correct.
because as long as I'm turning the wheels and making money, cash flow off of this, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Without using your money.
And I didn't use my money. I didn't get a loan. I didn't go to the bank. I didn't do anything but maybe do a small repair, pay them a little bit of money and put a tenant in.
So
And
can I
maybe
say,
make up 3 payments.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little more if the market was bad. I mean, in 2009, we were paying 6 and 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay, but 6 and 8 months was cheaper in my market. I mean, where we started was less than 3.5% down on a mortgage. And I had a property. I didn't have it in my name. I cash flowed. It really didn't matter. I put a tenant in and I've made money since. Yes.
I was gonna ask 2 questions. where do you invest and what's the longest property you've owned? Like how long have you owned?
Okay, so where have I invested and how long have I owned? Okay, so I started in Kansas. I have not found anything here that meets the criteria. I only moved here 2 years ago. So all my houses are in Kansas. I can still buy a house for 50,000. I'm still an active realtor there. I fly back, I buy houses. I have a couple people in California, some agents that I met that I'm looking for houses for them, for their portfolio for there. Sometimes you got to move the market to find the money, right? So the longest I've owned is I've been investing for 26 years. So I've had a house for 26 years.
So you've had one this whole time and they haven't
Yes.
paid it off or their mortgage.
I have tenants that have been with me for over 20 years. And they've just moved, right, from one small house to the other. Because here's what happens when you find a great landlord, you don't want to leave your great landlord. And I'll let you move from this house to that house and not pay additional deposit, or you know what kind of tenant you are. And I just move you up.
So the hardest part.
Hold on one second, go ahead.
So do you self-manage or do you have a?
Yes.
team?
So my husband and I self-manage. We have a software program that we use. We met a gentleman by the name of Michael Butler long ago. He's from Louisville, Kentucky, and he has a program that works inside of QuickBooks. So one is tenant tracking, so that if I decide to manage, or if anybody's helping me, they can manage my tenants and not ever manage my money. They will never know what my real balance is. My husband and I are the only two ones with passwords. Our accountant gets an accountant copy. It works through QuickBooks. Best investment we ever made. Manages everything. Every month on the 20th, we print out statements. When our kids were little, they would pay all the rent, send out all the mortgage payments. That's how they got allowance, right? They worked. They don't get anything for free at my house. So they have to work for it.
So would you say the hardest part, or significant hard part of this program is finding the people?
Yeah, if you've been doing it long enough, they find you. If you have a good enough reputation as a tenant or as a landlord, they call you. If people in town know what you do, they call you. I don't know the last time I actually called somebody that didn't already know who I was and what I did. Long time.
Okay, so on the paperwork, do you get a real estate attorney to write up the purchase contract, or you're using this like the state approved? What do you
I'm
do?
not. It's not a state approved transaction.
So what
I'm
do you
not
use?
buying it as a realtor. I cannot use a realtor MLS contract. We have a contract that we've developed over the last 26 years. A lot of it gets added to based on the new University of Education that we just got applied, right? So if something happens, we fix it for the next time so it doesn't happen. Our rental agreement's like 9 pages long, maybe 10 now. So if it happened to me and I don't want to have it again, it becomes part of my contract. So I don't use a real estate license. My husband does most of the purchasing because we are, as agents, obligated to disclose that we are licensed. We found once I got my license, because we did this beforehand. So I wasn't licensed for 10 years of our business. Oh, probably a little bit more than that. But when I became a real estate agent, let me just tell you, they don't think you're out for their best interest. And it's not that I'm not, but it's the perception that, well, you're just taking advantage. It was a hard perception for people to get over. So then we split our business. I did the real estate side, my husband did the investment side. So then we didn't have to disclose. Because I don't sign anything, I don't do anything, I'm not part of the process anymore. Okay, we had to create a veil of separation. Now I'm not sure that makes as much difference, but back then in 2008, 2009, 2010, building back of the market, it was a huge thing. And why do you want to call me to list it? And I go, hey, I'll buy it for what you owe. And am I doing my fiduciary responsibility as an agent? Probably not. Especially if I know they could get a little more money than what they owe, depending on the market. So you have to be very careful about your fiduciary responsibility as an agent while you're investing. Now, if it sits on the market forever and doesn't sell, and I'm doing everything that I can, then I might offer to buy the property, right? But I make sure that all my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed, especially if I'm buying something that I went to do a listing on. The other thing is getting another agent to understand that if it's in a bad market, we bought some on open market. They had an agent. We paid their agent and took over the property subject to, but made sure the agent got money. I'm not all for taking any professional out. You need them. You don't ever property that I buy, I don't buy with an agent, but when I do buy it with an agent, I'd like my agent to be happy to let me use them, right? Happy to find me a deal. Call me if there is one that pops up. I don't have to go, they screwed me on that house, right? Because there's no other option. There's no other way to sell it in a bad market. Yes,
These subject to that you're doing, I assume none of them are reverse mortgages.
correct.
Can't work with that.
No, sir, because when it's done paying, who owns it? Not you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is you want to make sure if you can get a copy of the mortgage. A lot of people don't have it, but a lot of people have a file from the title company or an envelope, you know, with the documents in. Because some of these, and you guys, if you've been in the business long enough, know all about escalations, right? 3 years at this rate, 2 years at this rate, then it goes up to this rate. You want to make sure when you're buying it that whatever the highest rate is that mortgage is going to be, because it does have a cap generally, that is what you're cash flowing off of. Yes,
Let's say something goes totally south. Technically, you bought it, but not making the payment still affects them.
correct. These are the first mortgages I pay. But yes, if you can't afford a missed payment, you better not be buying these. Because it's, I mean, that's the first thing that's going to tank you. Is if you go out and buy a whole bunch and then you think you can do it with no money, and then a tenant doesn't pay and you've got to evict them. You guys have a little bit different eviction process here than we do. They don't pay 30-day on day 3, they get a pay or quit, and then by the 4th week, they're at the eviction court. Out 10 days later. So we're not going a long time, but you guys, some other places have a lot different rules about eviction. So you want to make sure, but this is the first one I pay. I'd rather take a hit than somebody else, because listen, my integrity is a lot. When I sat at the table and told you I was going to make the payment, I really meant I was going to make the payment. Right? I'll let something else go maybe a little bit past due if I don't get it, or I'll figure out how to take a loan out of my credit card, but I am not going to pay for that mortgage.
Did you have any issues with the moratorium they did on during COVID with the tenants not having to pay their rent?
As far as any of my rental properties,
Yeah. Did you have any issues with that?
I think I probably had 3 or 4 that didn't pay, but not for very long, because here's what else I'm going to tell you. You're going to learn about all the programs. You're going to send them to them. Hey, here's where you can get free money to pay the rent that you owe me. Here's the link, fill it out. I'll even help you if you want.
Yeah.
I didn't go, I think there might've been 2 or 3 months that we had a couple of people that didn't make payments, but we provide the resources to them so that they can get the money to pay us.
It was proactive.
Yes. Because for me, you know, I don't know, how many of you guys have investment property already? Okay, so you'll know, right? So your bottom line is big business for you. And if I'm like, oh, I'll just sit back and wait and see what happens, and then it's 5 months later and I'm like, oh my gosh, I still don't have it. And here's what it said in the moratorium, by the way. You cannot evict them for non-payment. You cannot evict them for non-payment. Did I have another reason I could evict them? You better believe I did. I have a whole tenant file. I'm not asking you to move because you didn't pay me. I'm asking you to move because you broke the lease. You did this, you brought your dog in, you did this, right? Okay, I'm sorry, but there's a way, all the way around different things. You just got to talk to the right group of people, talk to people that have been, but yeah, well, I evicted people. A lot of times it's like, I'm not even going to evict you. Here's the deal. I'll just let you out of your lease. I won't hold you responsible for the remaining balance, but you have got to go because you violated. I can go to eviction court and people move out. I could call my attorney and we could go that route, but A, it's going to ding your credit. So if you ever want to do something in the future, guess what you're doing? I smile all the way to the bank when I get checks from my collection attorney. I turned everything over to him. Somebody gets their life together, right? Gets their stuff together. They're going to get married and they need to buy a house. Guess what they do? They got to pay me off. So then they'll settle. I'll set, my attorney will settle. And they'll get their stuff paid off so they can go buy a house. It's all on their credit. I don't hang on to it, and I'm just not, you've got to run this like a business. I don't care if they owe me 500 or 5,000, they go to my attorney. Right? That's it. That's the process. You got processes for what you do for your real estate. That's the process. First they go here, then they go here, then this happens on this day, this happens on this day, and they just go to the attorney, and that's where they end up. But it makes me smile when I get that attorney check. But people, I thought they were never going to pay you. Some of them's 10 years old. I don't care. At some point, I'll probably get my money or a portion of it. So, but you have to kind of get yourself in that position. I'm sure if this is your only house and you don't make any money, I mean, you can't be doing stuff like that, right? You have to be, I still wouldn't overextend myself and go do a whole bunch of these if I didn't have money in the bank to cover those if somebody didn't pay. Yes.
So what is like your process? Have you had to sell any of these that you've done the
No.
subject twos? You've kept every single one of them.
No, I haven't kept them, but I haven't had to sell them.
Okay.
I took an option, I decided to sell them for whatever it is in my business. If I want, like this year we sold, I don't know how many we sell. 6, I think. That made a lot of money. I'm not sure if I'm going to like my taxes at the end of the year, but people called up. I had a tenant that called, their friend called my husband. He said, "Hey, my friends are moving out. Are you interested in selling?" And we were like, "Not really." And they're like, "Well, we can't find a house in that area, and that's where we want to live." And we are like, "All right, I guess." So then we just looked to see what would be a good deal and sold it to them. So
You mentioned that you hadn't found anything here the last couple of years you've been here. What is your criteria? You mentioned $500 cash flow. Is that kind of it, since you don't care what the balance is
No.
in the note?
depends on so in my portfolio, I have a lot of different structures of things. So like I told you, there's some that are break even, right? Which means I don't make any money. I need but I need those to offset. So any repair I do is an offset to my taxes on the property I do make money on. So what I've been looking for here is I'm not paying $50,000 over asking price. Now, if somebody called me and said, "Hey, I'm in a bind, I need to sell my house," I could take it over subject to, I would do it as long as it cash flowed. And rents probably here are a lot higher, so they probably would, no matter almost wherever they're at. But you get to a certain dollar point in houses and you just can't, it's hard to get the rent to go any higher. And it's hard to get the tenant. I mean, you've really cut down your pool of people that are available. The reason that you haven't is because people are paying that right now and everybody's buying, not anybody's selling. But have you noticed the market, like probably in the last 3 months? Yeah, switch went right off and we're into longer term times on the market, except for certain prices. So this is not just general rule, but the market is already shifting and changing. Right? Now, look at those people that bought 2 years ago. If they have to sell their house today, will they get all their money plus their realtor fees? Probably not. Will they sit on the market longer? Probably so. Do they need help to get to where they're going? Probably. So that's the kind of market you're looking for. So different strategies require different markets and just different times. So I also have a commercial line of credit. So if I want to pay cash, be a cash buyer and close in 10 days, I really get a good deal on different properties too, because people need to go. But you're talking about people that have owned it longer in an equity position, circumstances are taking them somewhere different. So I'm a problem solver. I don't want to take advantage of somebody. So I'm not looking for people to like, can I buy your house because you're in a mess? Generally the mess calls me and we figure out how we can help them if we can. Sometimes if I can't, I'll flip it to my other investor clients and they might be able to based on whatever they're looking for their portfolio. If you make a lot of money, you got to have some offsets too. So lease options, those kind of things, of lease option to house. I leased it and then I sublet it with the option to purchase it and locked in the purchase price. And if I decide to buy it, then I can buy it. So you could stack some of those and then traditional lending and then commercial lending. So commercial lending is different, not a lot of criteria. They generally stay at the bank. They don't sell those out. So they have less criteria to me, they seem easier to guys call my bank and he just has a check ready. I go sign like 3 pieces of paper. It's like the best mortgage ever. So, but generally they're different terms, 15 years, usually 2% above prime, you know, so you just want to make sure that whatever you're structuring, and you just want to sit down and look and see, okay, this is what my objective is. I want to replace my salary, right? As most people, or I want to replace my wife's salary so she can stay at home, and we need to have, so how many houses will that take based on the average return? Then you can then you start figuring it out. You can send some letters to neighborhoods. You can try to hook up, I don't want to say hook up, meet up with an attorney, a divorce attorney that says, hey, just think about me, you know, I go to lunch, here's kind of what I do. If you ever have if you ever have a client that's in that bind, feel free to give them my number. You know, I'm really just a problem solver. Might not be able to do it, but I'd certainly entertain the option, right? So you look at an estate attorney, talk to bank trustees of bankruptcies. You know, they got houses in bankruptcy. So you can just find different avenues to start locating property. Just depending on what you want to do. I have a little bit of everything. And then once you start doing it and people know, they'll send you deals. All right.
Just going back to kind of the criteria, is there anything that you won't do?
Yes, if I have to pack a weapon, I will not buy there.
We all have everybody sends you.
No, if that's optional,
Like,
if it's required, I don't buy there. Is that better? If it's optional,
yeah,
I'm okay. If it's requirement, I don't buy there.
and then.
But let me tell you, the reason I don't buy there is a lot of those people are credit crappy, bad manager of their money. They're fly by night. They're in today, gone tomorrow. It's a lot of maintenance. I would much rather buy a house twice that amount to get out of that area because I'm going to make more money in the end. So I'm not making the repairs. I have a better tenant in there. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If I'm in this area, okay, so we buy and sell in an A, B, C, D. So D is a depressed area. It's a gun requiring area, right? C and B are our favorite targets. Those are people that at some point may be a homeowner, but right now they are either somewhat credit challenged, but can still qualify for rent. And they have the mentality of wanting to at some point own, so they take better care of your stuff. Now that's not everybody, but the general rule is they do. A are homeowners. So let me just tell you, they're a pain in the ass. Sorry, but they are, because they want everything fixed, right? So I don't ever rent to somebody that's like, hey, our house burned down, and the reason I tell you this is because we had one. Hey, our house burned down, our insurance is going to pay, and my husband's like, well, that's probably worth it. All the extra money, they pay extra money if you have a property like that and you just let people move in for shorter terms with no lease, and while their insurance pays, they pay like almost double what the regular rent is. But then they want everything fixed. Hey, there's a crack in the wall. Hey, they left a hole in the wall. Hey, and I'm like, hey, the landscape. And it's like, oh my gosh, no. So those mentalities are problems because they constantly call me. And they don't really want to be a renter. They want to be a homeowner. And if you've ever yourself rented and then bought, you have a whole different mentality of the expectation. Right? So if you take that the other way, so the house I live in, if I move over and you could lose a lot of money. Oh, this needs to be nice. Hey, we need granite in here. Hey, we need the no touch faucets. And I'm like, no, this is not a house you're living in. This house you're renting. Renters don't need faucets that turn on by themselves. I do in my personal house, but my renter does not. Right? My renter needs carpet. They don't need high dollar carpet. They don't need bad carpet, but they don't need extreme carpet. So, and we fix property based on the house. So if it's a D, I'm fixing it like a D, nice, but still D. Walmart fixtures, I'm just not spending a lot of money because I'm constantly overturning it. If it's $500,000, I do it a little different than I do a $300,000 house in finish. Right? They're still nice, but amount of money I'm willing to spend is less. So A, B, C, D, C and B. And usually C area is where you're gonna find your subject twos, maybe lease with option, piggybacks, those kind of things. B, they're selling because they want to buy a house. So they're not good subject twos because they're not waiting 2 years. They want to sell it to buy or sell it to move, or they're getting married, right? So they still need to qualify for a house. Those are a lot of B are movers to houses. Or young professionals. And young professionals are great and they stay where they are until they meet the love of their life, then they want to move. Right? So, but that's how we buy A, B, C, D. And C's are probably going to be your best bet. Right? I don't know what else you guys want to know about subject twos. Make sure you cover your butt and get all the documentation. If you have one, let me give you my cell phone number. You can call me and say, what is it that I need? Or, hey, I'm happy to look at your deals. I love real estate and I don't mind helping you guys. So my phone number is 785-845-9829. And it's Carol. And here I'll spell my last name is Holthaus. And I will call you. And we can analyze your deal. We can talk about, how do you need, what do I need to say to the buyer or the seller? What do I say to them? How do I combat this deal? What I won't give you are my contracts. That's the only thing I will not give you. So,
Where would be a good place to start for those, Carol, for somebody that's maybe looking to do that, to come up with your own or talk to an attorney for that, to create it?
here's what I'm going to tell you. The attorney, if it's a real estate attorney, probably, but they're going to have such a language in there that the common person is not going to be able to understand it, and you're not going to be able to explain it. So I would probably tell you, so mrlandlord.com, that's Jeffrey Taylor. That's a great resource for investors. He does, in fact, they're going to, he does an annual conference and they have a lot of people come in. That's actually where we met Mike Butler on a cruise 22 years ago, something like that, 22 or 23. But this year they're going to Jamaica. I was going to go, but it's in the height of wrestling season. If you know anything about me, my son wrestles, both my boys, my son, and I don't miss a wrestling tournament for anything. So that's the reason kind of we started this, is I just want to be able to go where I want, when I want, with whomever I want, and write a check for whatever we're doing and never worry about it. That's my why. So no matter the circumstance. So, and this really is just an additional pivot to my portfolio. So I still actively sell real estate. So I'm not actively looking for deals. If they fall to me, I'll look. But I mean, I'm, between a couple of states and a couple of kids, and I'm not, I don't need to be any bigger. I'm all right. My retirement looks pretty good. So that's why we started this. I love my Social Security little letter I get, because now that I'm 55, I'll be 56 shortly. I get the thing that says, if I just keep working really hard, I'm going to make like $537 a month. I'm so excited. I can hardly take it. That will not even make, pay my car, let alone my house or anything else, and I just would like to write a letter back that says, dear government, I really appreciate the fact that you are willing to pay me $537. I'll stick to the 90,000 from my other investment properties. Thank you very much. Keep your money. So I always tell people we'll live pretty good when we're retired. Actually not retired. We restructured is we structured based on our kids' age. And when the last was out of the house, we're going to be able to travel. So about 80% of our properties will be paid off in the next 2 years, or the rest of up to 80%, maybe even a little bit more, like 85. Will be all paid off. So we have very few to worry about. And if we shut down, we still get money, right? Of that going on vacation and come home and checks are in the mail. Because other people go to work to pay me to go on vacation. That's what I tell my kids. They're like, you never work. I said, I don't need to. I got 100 other people going for me. So, and it's slow and steady. right? This does not happen overnight. You're not gonna go bang and add like 30 properties to your portfolio unless you buy a multi-unit. But multi-units are generally lots of money. Those are hard to subject to. Those are hard to take over because there's just a lot of big bucks that change place on those. And so, and there are a lot of headache management, hiring employees, W-2s, Social Security, stuff we did not want to do. Now, if that's your cup of tea, then you could get into that too. Commercial property, you can do that too.
Just real quick, what are some of the probably 2 or 3 most common hiccups in a subject to deal that you see kind of on your side? You're like, oh no, this is happening again. Something like that.
I wouldn't say that there's very many on my side anymore, other than the 2 that were really unforeseen when they wanted their houses back. I would tell you it's more on the buyer side that you think you've got it all explained, and then the buyer talks to somebody and they go, oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't, so a lot of people muddy the water. That's probably a more hiccup when you think you've got it all explained and then you come back with more questions you can't answer. And here's where I just say, you know what, that's not my area of expertise, but let me call my partner. Maybe we can meet with him or her, right? Maybe we can meet with them. They could explain a little better than me. This is kind of my cup of tea and that's theirs. And I just call somebody. I'll call my husband, I'll call whoever, and whether they answer or not, I'm like, hey, partner, it's Carol. I'm over at this house, right? And so then we just make another appointment and hopefully we can tackle that. That's probably the biggest challenge, is selling the buyer on the subject too.
Okay, so it's just communication.
And if you understand it and how it works, and they go, hey, I can give you some references. I'll tell you, we bought the principal of my son's elementary school's house. He called us. He said, hey, I heard you buy houses. And I said, yeah, we do. We went over. I said, there's no way I could do it. What's your monthly payment? And he said this. I said, oh, I could take over your payment for you. Do you need money out of the house? Well, I don't think I have any money. Okay, then you don't. So when do you need to move? And they said, and so we took his house over subject to, and my kids saw him every day. He was a principal of the school, and he told everybody we bought his house and how great we were. We made every single payment. So if people at the school had an issue, guess who they called? They called us. Now, every deal doesn't work, right? It's not always going to work. Sometimes you got to do 20 of these to make one happen. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? The numbers. So
you don't have any like documentation or like anything that you signed saying, if you don't make the payment, then it falls on you. It's always going to fall on the seller.
the contract says if I don't make the payment, they can sue me.
Okay.
And since I'm buying it in the name of my LLC, I probably consider that a little more. Of course, that LLC doesn't hold any property, so that probably doesn't matter, but they don't know that. I mean, I don't defraud anybody intentionally. Here's my deal. I don't ever not intend to pay.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying circumstances don't happen, but if you're barely making it yourself, do not buy somebody's house subject to. Okay. First of all, it's a disservice to them and you. And you want a good reputation. You want to be somebody, you go back and go, oh, I don't know how I'm going to make the payment, Carol. I don't know how I'm going to pay it. I'm going to be like, well, what? Here first you convince me into doing this, right? Tell me it's how good it is, and then you don't make a payment. That's a problem. Because that messes with their credit and stuff, but you just don't want that reputation. And listen, people talk. If you don't know that, right? They talk. Social media is really huge now. All they got to do is like tweet out or post on Instagram about how crappy you are, and guess what? You're never going to buy another house subject to. Probably won't do a lot of other things too. Yes.
You mentioned though that in Utah with the way the pricing for houses and everything's so crazy, if you're down south, how about in that area? It's not as bad. Or is this something that's got to get a lot worse before it becomes?
I honestly think it doesn't matter about the market as much as it matters about the circumstance. So if the market is really good and he needs to sell his house and he needs to be gone tomorrow and there's nobody on there and people are over, then you could still buy it. Okay, if the market, so it doesn't matter what the market is doing. It matters about the two people doing the transaction. So if my friend calls and goes, I'm moving and I don't want to deal with all this crap, hanging with the realtor, waiting around 30 days, hoping it closes, inspections. He goes, can you just, would you, you can take their house over, let them go, be on their way, maybe pay them some money, whatever. So you could still make it work, but it's really generally between you and the person's circumstances.
Would you say that if
There's still people dying, there's still people getting divorced, there's still kids squabbling over estates, you know, there's all of that, that's still here. It doesn't matter what the market is. I'm saying I won't actively go out and buy because I'm not over purchasing.
would you say that if you have a majority of homes that are in the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 range, those mortgages that you're assuming are going to be a lot more substantial than if you pick up properties in other states that are 150,000.
Correct.
Because the very problem with townhomes and everybody buying this new stuff, hey, we're going to rent them out. As soon as things change, they can't find somebody who want to rent for $4,000 a
Right.
month. And that's, you know,
Yeah.
because they can't afford it.
Right,
And that market kind of tanks. So a renter that's got rentals that are, will always get $1,000 a month for these because they've been here for 30 years, you know, that's pretty stable.
right.
So would you say that's the one thing?
I'm going to tell you, it just depends on what you want to do. So I have a couple of high dollar rentals. Well, the reason I have them is because they're homes that I lived in. I didn't see the sense of selling my own home when it could make money for me. So then, so I don't do, and I just look at the average market rents, right? So if the average rent for a 5-bedroom here with a 3-bathroom with a double car garage and a fenced yard is 5,000, let's say, for somebody that wants to come in and rent, because rent is substantially higher here than a mortgage payment. So it might be doable. I just run my numbers based on what I want to accomplish in my bottom line. Now, I might go, this would be a great break even. Or I might go, hey, this is close to the mountains. This would be a freaking awesome Airbnb. Okay, I could make that work because I'd do short-term rental, Airbnb it out, and that's how I'd compensate for the difference in the money. So doesn't have to be traditional, you move in and pay the rent mortgage. You could do a lot of different things. You could make it you could get a hold of a big business that says, hey, they bring people in here all the time. They get tired of staying at hotels. I'll tell you what, I'll rent you my house furnished. Your corporate people can come say, we'll make it a corporate house, right? Contact a big company. Then you have a contract with that company, whether they have somebody there or not, they pay. So you might make it, you know, something different. I mean, you could do a ton of things with the property besides traditional. So just kind of got to get yourself out of the box and think, what is the best means for this property? It's kind of best use, right? So the best use would be make it an Airbnb, and it makes me enough money that buying your $500,000 or $800,000 house makes sense, then I would do that. Right? So you would not just look at traditional options. You got to like a plethora of options, right? Of different things that you could do. I wouldn't just say, oh, it doesn't work. I'd try to figure out if it works. If you came to me and were willing to let me take your house without having to qualify for a mortgage, I'd be working really hard to figure out how I could make that work for me. And if I can't, I just can't do it. Right? Listen, we've had people take seconds because it didn't work. But they'd take a small second, we take the large first, and we just make our own selves an agreement, and we'd close it at the title company, and they would pay a third party, so an escrow company, they would make a small stipend or monthly payment to them to offset what we couldn't do. Because it worked, right? We're problem solvers. So every problem isn't like an A and B. It's like an A through Z. And you just ask, right?
Have some ideas on how to go outside your market or your state and buy these homes in other states? Because I know I just had one of my clients, her mother passed away in Atlanta, Kansas, and I'm looking for realtors and, you know, and send a referral over. That stinking home sold for like 20,000. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So, but how do you find those in
So
other states?
funny you ask me that. I did a class for California. So what's easy? You just find an agent there that you like, you build a relationship. I'm doing one right now in Illinois. So in Indianapolis. So we have a friend's son that moved up there, and he used to work for us when he was little. And he called and he says, hey, I'm doing all this construction work, but that's not where the money is. I'd like to have my own deal, but I can't qualify. Well, what kind of deal do you want? So my husband and I flew up there and we met with him and we walked through 5 properties he's working on. Does a great finish. He's running 5 projects, seems to be pretty seamlessly. They did not know we were coming because we're scheduled to see 2. And I said, well, don't you have more? And we just popped into job sites. So for the other 3. And so I left and I said, okay, I'm going to find an agent. We're going to buy a house and we're going to split the deal. We'll buy it. We'll front the money. You do the work and I'll pay you 50% of the equity. And he said, seriously? I said, yeah. And same, you find it, we find it, doesn't matter. You do the work, you get the job done, we get it back on the market and sell it. I said, and then we'll split 50% with you. So I'm working with an Illinois agent right now, or in Indianapolis, and I'm vetting them, right? Asking questions. What do they know? Do they have investment property of their own? Is my first question. Do you own any rentals? Do you own any commercial property? I don't buy or put my investment portfolio in the hands of somebody that doesn't have their own. You know, I love it when I'm at my office and they go, oh, I'm working with my investor client. I go, you don't even own a house. Seems a little weird. You haven't made the investment yourself, but you're hoping somebody else manage their money to buy some. So if they don't have it, I'm just next, right? There's enough agents. And so I just build it. They send me market stats. I'm kind of picking the areas. So I think we're down to 5. And then if he brings me something, I'll buy it. And if they bring it to me and I buy it, they'll sell it for me, right? That's the deal. And I'll take a referral on every deal. And the agent said, what? And I said, no, every deal I send you, I'm on a referral. I'm a licensed agent. I guess I could get licensed in there, up there if I wanted. I just don't want to. Having to pay somebody to do their work. But if I'm just going to give you a deal that you don't got to do any work for, I would think 25% referral fee is nothing. One agent said no. Okay, next. Wow. They called me back and they said, are you still looking for somebody? I said, no, thank you. I think I found somebody. They probably thought about it because 75% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And I'm guaranteeing you the sell and the buy. So, but and then you just have to make sure that they have a team of people that can help manage and do your stuff, right? So who are their vendors? Well, they give you their vendor list. Do they have a painter? Do they have a carpenter guy? Do they have all these different things? You want to make sure that they're lined up to help you with your property, with your acquisition. Now, if I call them, they said, oh, I don't really, you know, you just call somebody or whatever. I'm like, no, you call me, I got a Rolodex. And then I get special pricing. So on top of that, if you drop my name, they'll give you special pricing and you go to the top of the list. Kind of has perks to do a lot of business, right? So they go to the top, my clients go to the top of the list, especially when they're busy. That really helps out. So you just make sure that they're there and that you are, and go there. I mean, it's only an airline ticket, a couple days in a hotel, check the area out, right? Get all the data, make sure you got it all. And then I just go trust but verify. That's what we always tell our kids. We trust you, but we're going to verify that's accurate. And we go there, which is what we did, right? So then we go there, we check it out, we make sure it's exactly like we thought it was and what our conversation led it to be. And then we'll go buy there. So if you're looking at smaller, it's easier to invest with less money. I can give you bankers in Kansas. I could tell you what's on there. I could set you up on the drip. I go there at least once a month. So if that's an area or something that you're considering, let me know and you can just call me and I'll tell you what, you know, first thing you're going to buy is a street map. You're going to put it up on the wall and I'm going to ABCD you. Right? The ABCD areas, and then you're going to look at your list and kind of decide you're going to tell me what you want in cash flow. I'll run your numbers. I run all of my investors' numbers. When I send them a deal, I get it in my email. If they have interest, I run my numbers based on what they told me they want in their portfolio. And sometimes we just don't buy. And I thought you know, and they get antsy. If you've never bought, you get that, oh my God, we want to buy, get it over with. Never do that. You always make a bad choice. You buy right, you can always get rid of it. You can always end better, right? So it's on the buy that you really capitalize. So That's what I tell you. Start building a team and then do it. But you would want to make sure that they know what they're talking about and that they actually have property. And you can go out and go the 10 best, cheapest places to live, and Google will tell you. Indianapolis is one. I think Kansas was 13 this year, maybe. We did have a spike in increase. That's why we sold some properties. But you need to stay on the pulse of the market for your businesses. Right? Don't count on the agent to do it for you. It's great. You can have conversation, but always do that. And the reason I tell you that is another university. So we had a house in Oklahoma City. It was our very first home purchase. We did a 203K construction loan. We were young and dumber, I guess. We had our first baby. We bought this house. We fixed it all up, and we were there with nobody, right? No family, not my husband or I. We just moved to Oklahoma to get away from his family. God love him, but at a distance. And so we bought a house there, right? We got it all fixed up. And our circumstance, we had our daughter, and we decided we were going to move. The company had promised us all this stuff, and it didn't transform, and we weren't going to be, anybody's, bitch. Sorry. I gotta be. I'm like, listen, I'm just gonna. One thing you'll know about me, if I'm not on camera, I really kind of do have a mouth. But I'm like, they're just adjectives to me, not really cuss words. So that's what I tell my kids. And anyway, so we decided we were going to leave, right? And so then we need to sell our house. But only my husband had a job. I didn't have one, where we were going back to Kansas to be by his family because we had a baby. And that families are a lot of help when you have a new baby, right? A lot of interference. That's what I think, not help. But anyways, so our house didn't sell. Nobody came to look at it, but everybody loved it when they came and we were doing the work. I couldn't believe it was going to go on the market. Went on the market, and a year later, my husband said, "What are we doing? I thought we wanted to do rentals." And I go, "Well, I guess we do." So we rented our house. We rented it in 24 hours to these people, and they stayed there for 8 years. Every year they'd send us a notice. "Hey, we're going to move." Oh, man. And we're going to have to drive the 4 hours to Oklahoma. We're going to have to. And then a couple weeks later, they'd send them and go, "Oh, you didn't rent it, did you? We're not moving." And it was like, oh, sweet, right? We're like, oh, nice, right? And so then all the tornadoes come through and kill down through parts of Oklahoma. And guess what happens? Rents skyrocket. Guess what we don't know? Skyrocketed rents. So they give us our notice. Oh, they're staying every year. Then they said, "Hey, we bought a house. We're moving this time for sure." So we drive down there, and I'm like, "Wow, that house down the street's for sale." I called. They're like 3 times the rent that we are. 3 times. You know how sick I was? Pretty sick. Probably at least 2 years or better that we just gave them all that money. We lost money. We didn't lose it, but we didn't make it either, right? Because we didn't know that we should have been following our investment. Nobody told us that, right? So that's a self-taught, those are self-universities right there. Probably got a lot in real estate too. I mean, I get a lot of those. They're usually a lot more money than a college course. So stay on your business pulse, wherever your business is, right? You can have somebody doing it, but never relinquish total control. So I don't know, so what time is it? So we started about 12:30, so we only have, anybody have any dying questions? Was it helpful?
Yes.
You guys can call me. I love to talk about real estate. I love it. It's like, it's my jam. Oh, my kids probably don't want me to say that either. And there's other ways to buy besides this. So you have lease options, you have owner financing, you have traditional, you have, commercial lending, you have partnerships, you have there's so many different ways to do it. So,
Is this
yeah.
your favorite one though?
Mm,
Is this what you use the most, or is there something else?
no, my favorite thing is the partnership we're doing with our son's friend. Now that I'm in a position where I have money, right? I've been looking, since I've been here for 2 years, I've been looking for something to do, to help somebody else make money, and I make it, but they do all the work. I just front the money. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay to give up 50%. Still a good deal, right? I don't have to go to work for it. I don't do anything but just supply the money and the credit. So if people have deals and they want to do stuff and they don't, I mean, I'm interested in that too. So, but yeah, I just, yes.
I wasn't here, but when you're doing this partnerships, what percent ROI?
Well, I get, well, I don't know that I'm really looking, just depends. I'm just looking for money. So I don't really go in ROIs, right? I go in net income, cash flow. I don't care. If I make the money that I need for my portfolio, it doesn't matter to me. So,
Do you have projected cash flow you prefer on a property?
yep, 3 to 5, depending on the area where I buy. 300 to 500 per month per property, depending where I buy. Yes,
Do you do Section 8 rentals?
on occasion.
Is that the D?
Hmm?
Is that the D neighborhood?
No, actually, there's C and Bs.
Government pays your.
So kids get divorced, they have 5, or I don't really want to say divorced. They don't even get married. They got 5 baby daddies. Guess what they get? Help. The widow that dies, whose husband left her and he was the breadwinner, they get help. They're not bad people. So even people on Section 8 aren't bad people. Sometimes they create a bad circumstance, right? And there's that level of expectation that a D, they're trash, right? When you drive by the area. But, you know, there's some C and Bs that look like that too. So, yeah. But yes, we do. And we have some VAs that we do. We do some, what's called, well, back in Kansas called Vallejo. And those are like a drug center where they're being integrated back out. They need some housing. They're in our C, they don't go to our B, and that's just because they don't qualify. But super great people. In fact, a couple of them do work for us now. You know, our tenants, we have a painter, we have a floor layer. My best floor layer was one of our tenants. They moved. It was the worst thing ever. But so I'll employ them. I won't be their main breadwinner, but I will use them if they have a business. If they're good, right? I mean, I'm not using them, but yeah, but several of them paint our houses. Some of them go do trash removal, a couple roofer, people that do roofing, they just do it on the side and come do it. It's not their main bread, but I'll pay them because they do a good job. And why not? Right? That's why they never want to leave. But other landlord's going to hire them to help them do jobs. Not very many. Just doesn't make good business sense to me. If you sit down and kind of look at your your structure, why wouldn't you hire them if they were good?
House, nice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah, we've had some tenants with us 20 plus years. I think we probably got 10 or 12 of those still. And families, like the brother moves in, then the mom wants to move in, and the sister moves out and she wants a place. So we rent to a cluster of families in different areas of town. All the siblings all rent from us. We've had people leave and want to get back. Sorry, we're waitlisted. We do have a wait list for our properties. They don't stay empty very long. We have a website and they can fill it out. And if we have a property that comes to them, our tenants get first choice. And then we send it out to whoever signed up, and then it goes out to the public. So a lot of ours don't hit the market. So anything else you're dying to know that's not subject to that I could answer for you while we're standing here?
I'm curious why you moved to Utah when you have such a big base there.
COVID.
I've heard that before.
So COVID and wrestling. Yes.
I have a client move from Hawaii for wrestling. So,
Where do they go?
they're in Eagle Mountain.
Oh, well, we're with Juab. We moved to Juab, so they've won 6 straight state titles for 6A. I have one of the best programs that we could find around, and my son's traveled all over. He was asked to be on Team USA and travel. We did not let him travel internationally. My husband was like, nope. And I said, it's just as good being asked as it is going. Try to convince that to a 12-year-old, not so easy, but But yeah, because Kansas was closing down. For being a Midwest place, they closed down, and we came on a motorcycle trip. My husband and I ride Harleys, and we came, and our friends live in Levan. And she's like, "You want to go to the rodeo while you're here?" And I'm like, "You got a rodeo running?" And I go, "I don't want to go somewhere I have to wear a mask." And she's like, "Oh, we don't even know what those are here." And I was like, "Seriously?" So we drove down here, and they had a parade, and the wrestlers were on their float. And I was like, "Hey, how's your wrestling program?" And these cocky little 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids are like, "We're awesome." It's like, "Oh, well, really? You are?" They're like, "Yeah, we've won like 4 years in a row." And they're telling me all their stuff. And they're like, "Why do you want to know so bad?" And I said, "Well, I have a son. He'll be a freshman. Is he good?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. All moms say that." And I said, "Well, I think he can hold his own." That's what I said. And I said, I just said, "All moms say that?" And they said, "No, usually they say they're really good." And I said, "Well, he can hold his own." That's where I think. And so we went back and registered from school. They said, "Hey, we're not going in school." And this was 2021. Yeah, the next school year. So 2020 school year into 21. And I said, "What? You're not going into the building?" And they said, "No, we're doing online." And so my husband and I said, and this is Keller Williams at work, I said, "What does that look like in 3 years? What does it look like in 5 years if our kids don't go socialize, at the mercy of another person, another authority figure, having to be responsible, get up to go to class. And what's that going to look like in the workforce when they're ready to go out of school?" And we said, "It looks pretty bad." So we started looking what was open. And so we enrolled them on Wednesday in August of 2 years ago, August. My husband said, "Well, we were considering Oklahoma because they were pretty open in Texas." And I said, and my husband's like, "Why don't we just move to Utah?" And I was like, "Oh, that wasn't even on the block until we came on this motorcycle trip." And I was like, "Yeah, because I'm from here." So I said, "Yeah, let's move there." "Well, where are we going to move?" I said, "Well, wherever the programs are the best." And so then I called JUAB and I said, "I'd like to enroll." And they said, "We already had enrollment." And I said, "Well, what if we're moving there, can we enroll?" And they said, "Yeah, you can just make it." So we made an appointment. So that was on Tuesday, we enrolled. Wednesday, they made the announcement. Thursday, I had tickets. Saturday, I was here. Monday, they enrolled, and they started like Wednesday, I think. And we were living in our friend's basement. Oh, I can only do that for so long. And we happen to already have our house on the market, our big house. And I moved from, an 8,000 square foot, 4 acres, 5-car garage, separate building house to, I sold that for about what I bought my house in Nephi for, and then I still had to add a garage because it only had 2-car and the basement wasn't done. I had to fence it. And of course, we have to keep up with the Jones, put a trampoline in the ground, 'cause that's what you guys do here. I don't know why that is. I don't remember doing that when I was growing up here, but anyway, so then I had to do all that. And then we were those neighbors. And so we lived there, and we were only going to be here a year. COVID was going to open up. We were going to go back to the school. We were going to go back to the kids' programs. My daughter was going to go back to her national cheer team, as a senior and do all that. Well, then they were hybrid. And it was like, they're already in the classroom. We're not going back to that. So then I said, "Well, if I'm staying, I'm buying a different house. I'm not sacrificing." My husband's like, "What?" And I said, "This was like a year. This was the year picture. My 5-year or greater picture looks like that house over there that just hit the market." So we went and bought it and sold our house. So, and decided to stay. So my son will graduate from JUAB, but he went to state as a freshman at 120 behind the #1 state kid. Last year we were behind the #1 144. I don't know if you wrestled, but Channing Warner was #1, and we were behind him. And so, but he took 6th at state, sick. I mean, he went sick. He'd been sick for 2 months. Had just not a lot of energy, but it went to state. And so then he placed 6th. My daughter, JUAB started a girls team. So my daughter was a senior, wrestled for them and took 5th. So, they got a little war going on that he took 6th and she took 5th her first year out. And he's like, we got a lot of easier people, And so this year we're hoping we should be right on up there. So it'll be 7 for them this year. So I do a lot with that program. I take all the pictures for the wrestling team. I custom make shirts. I do that kind of stuff for fun. Of course, I just made all the cheerleader shirts for their mini cheer, 160 sweatshirts. And I got I don't know how many orders in my text that people want to order custom design shirts. So I make those and make them for all my friends and different. So if you need a shirt, I do
You
that
have so
too.
much spare time.
But you know what? I love it. And they're like, how do you do it? I said, time blocking, right? I block my time and my day and my activity, and I stay on, I really pretty much stay true to that. That's the only way you can do it. Because if I just got up today and like had a million things to do, I don't think I'd probably get half of them done. So I do that for fun. So, yeah, so that's me.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Thank you very much.
and really, you can take me up on it. You can call me. I don't know how to stop this Zoom or
I
whatever.
don't know. That
Well,
was
maybe it
awesome.
already
Super
stopped,
knowledgeable.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah, just bleep out the cuss words. There's only a couple in there. I was real careful. I was real careful. Yeah, I don't come down. I don't come down here very often, but if you want me to come down and kind of talk about how to get started, and do a meeting with just you, I'll do that too. I don't mind driving.
What area in Kansas?
In Topeka, well, I service, I'm a member of the MLS from Topeka to Manhattan.
Oh, okay. I lived in
So-
Kansas City. but
Yeah, I did